Prepare yourself for a whole lot of business tips. My guest, Pete Mohr, with Simplifying Entrepreneurship, is giving us so much good content in this episode of Crystal Uncorked. I mean, you might want to listen to it a couple of times. Pete talks about the 5 Ps, what those are. They are so critical to really get clear on those 5 Ps in your business. It's going to create a lot of clarity for you and just really make sure that you are moving in the right direction and on track with your business. We talk about creating systems and processes and why that is so important. Pete talks about how he helps entrepreneurs turn frustrations into freedoms. Doesn't that sound beautiful? Don't you have like a sense of when you hear that? Frustrations into freedoms. I mean, it's so freeing. I think you're going to love Pete. Actually, I know you're going to love Pete. And I've known him for several years, and I always just learn something and feel inspired after talking to him. Before I dive in, I just want to share a little bit more about Pete. Pete Mohr helps entrepreneurs transform their frustrations into freedoms by using a variety of frameworks that help them cut through the chaos and overwhelm of running a business. With over 25 years as a business owner, he's refined many of his tips, tools, and techniques in the trenches within his own businesses. He believes that you own your business. It shouldn't own you. And then it's time to start using frameworks that allow you to have a turnkey business so that you can live in the life that you deserve. Isn't that beautiful? Google or search on podcast players, Simplifying Entrepreneurship, if you want to learn more from Pete. And let's dive into this episode. Are you ready to open up and talk about all things business? I'm Crystal Vilkaitis, a curious entrepreneur who loves talking about business, especially over a glass of wine. I started Crystal Uncorked to share open and honest conversations about my journey and talk to other entrepreneurs about their experiences. We pull back the curtain and talk about the highs and the lows. Wine isn't required, but is recommended. This is Crystal Uncorked. Pete, welcome to Crystal Uncorked. I'm thrilled you're here.
I'm thrilled to be here, Crystal. Thanks for having me.
Yes. Okay. Let's start with, what are you drinking?
Well, I am drinking. I was saying before we hopped on, my wife's allergic to wine. And so I don't get a chance to drink a lot of wine because I'm not a huge drinker and I wouldn't open a bottle and drink a whole bottle. So what I do drink Canadian whiskey. So I poured myself a little Canadian whiskey, and it's from Wayne Gretzky has a winery in Niagara. So it's Wayne Gretzky's, it's called Red Cask whiskey because it's actually finished in red wine casks from his winery. And so that's what I picked to have a little drink here on the podcast.
I love it so much. And, I'm starting to drink more whiskey. I really like whiskey. So, but I don't know anything about it. We're going to Kentucky next month. I feel like I'm going to learn so much more while we're there. But of course, today I have red wine. We are filming this in April, which is Earth Day is coming soon. And so I'm trying a clean wine. It's sustainably farmed, vegan friendly. It's called the Wonderful Wine Co. It's a Syrah, and it is super it tastes clean, like in a good way. And it's a little tangy. I like it. Nice. So cheers, Pete.
Cheers.
All right. I'm so excited for our conversation. We've known each other for several years. I think we met at one of Bob's retail success summits. Bob Nagin was on the show, and Pete is a retailer, which you might talk about some of your retail stuff here, but you also recently started another venture that I'm loving. And so will you just tell us how you got started and why you started Simplifying Entrepreneurship?
Yeah, for sure. So, like you said, a couple of years ago, I decided that I wanted to branch off of, to take it back a little bit. I've always pretty much my entire career had more than one business at a time. And so it's just an interesting thing along the progression. I've done all sorts of different things. And of course, we own a couple of shoe stores called Shoetopia now. And I started another couple of businesses along the way here too, since I've had a Shoetopia. But this one really stemmed around the fact that, I've learned a lot in my 28 years of being an entrepreneur, and so many of my friends come up to me and so many different people and say like, what would you do here? What would you do there? And, can I pick your brain on this? And what about this? And it's like, I've, for almost my entire life, I've always been asked to coach people. So I decided that I was going to start a coaching business. And from that perspective, Simplifying Entrepreneurship is exactly that. I help frustrated entrepreneurs create more freedom and through their businesses. And so from that perspective, we're setting up all sorts of different stuff, having great strategy conversations. We dig into some marketing and stuff too, but really it's more around strategy and operations and what you want out of your life. And sort of the line that I have here, Crystal, that is sort of the premise of the business is you own your business and it shouldn't own you. And if you feel as though your business is owning you, it's owning your time, it's owning your mind, it's owning your relationships, it's owning you, then we should talk. And that's the kind of stuff that I'm there, and I help people sort of understand the systems and the processes in order to take you from that frustrated owner into enjoying not being completely free, because we're still business owners, but
Right.
enjoying more freedom from your business and setting up your business to deliver that. So it's something that I've always looked for, and I've been fortunate along the way to have some great people and to set up great processes and all these different things that have allowed me some freedoms. And now I want to share that and work with people, because it gives me energy to see people get their time back. It gives me energy to when somebody says, I just came back from getting my trailer. We have Shootopia. I'm getting my trailer rewrapped and decals put on it and everything, because we have it out front. And the guy that has this truck, I mean, it doesn't matter what business, but he's got this truck power washing bay. And he said, we started with about 3 bays. Now we have 15 bays. We own 10 trucks. We've expanded into all these other areas, and it all started with this truck wash company. And I'm like, I love to hear entrepreneurial success. And it doesn't matter whether it's retail or whether it's the truck wash company. I mean, it just gives me energy to talk business. And so it was a natural for me to get into coaching.
I so see that. I feel like you are such a natural, and I so agree. Like I'm very similar to you. I love hearing those success stories and talking about business. Obviously, it's one of the reasons I have the show. But you and I are working on kind of a side project here. And you said processes so many times. And when we started kind of our initial kickoff meeting for this side project, Pete shows up, man, he's got the whole process, everything that we can be filling in. It just helps us be way more efficient. And I think often with small businesses, we don't want to take the time to kind of like slow down to create the systems and processes. It's just like go, 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 get shit done. And that is not sustainable. And that is not going to help you grow, to have more freedom like you're talking about. I mean, that will create burnout. So I just feel like with the processes, it's critical. And I have a feeling, I love that you say that you're turning entrepreneurial frustrations into freedoms. Now, is that happening through processes? How do we do that? How do you do that?
Well, it is. That's one of the 5 Ps. So I'm in the midst of writing a book right now, and it's all around this concept of the 5 Ps. And I'll give you the 5 Ps and we can dig into them. But the 5 P, it always starts with your promise to your clients, right? And so after we have that, we need to align the right product or service if you're a service-based business, but product starts with P, and the process, the people, so that, and here's the transformation, we can get the profit, right? So it starts with the right promise. Then we are aligning the product, the process, and the people so that we can enjoy the right profit. And when we enjoy the right profit, there's your freedom, right? There's your freedom. So now, once I have profit, because I've aligned all these other things, because the business is running on rails and running by itself, essentially, then we can start saying, what would I like to do with this profit that I now have? And that's the freedom. That's when you got in business, whenever you started your business 1 year ago, 3 years ago, 10 years ago, you had freedom thoughts. That's why you started your business, because you're saying, I don't want to work for somebody else. I mean, I've been in business my entire life, except 6 months after university, I worked for my dad's best friend. And great guy, loved his business. But at the same time, I realized it wasn't for me. I wanted to make my own calls. I wanted to have my own freedoms. I was going to be responsible for me and for my family and all this other stuff. And I was okay with that. So, but at the same time, I thought, I don't want to be bound by these things. I do want the freedoms here. So if you've gone through the last 5 or 10 years and you aren't enjoying the freedoms of why you got into your business in the first place. And this happens, by the way, with a lot of independent retailers, right? Because they feel mired down into their business and they're working 7 days a week. And they're like, we can't open Sundays because I'll never get a day off. Well,
right.
This kind of stuff, right? And if that's you, there are ways to maneuver that and to fix that so that you can enjoy some of the freedoms out of your business. And it just involves those right things and aligning of those and understanding of those. And does it happen overnight? No. It takes some time. Well, if you don't start today, it's not going to be there for you 1 year, 5 years, 10 years down the road. Those time frames are going to be, you're going to look back again and say the same thing you're saying now. So when do you want to start? You want to start now.
Yeah. And that's the hardest part, I think, is getting started. And really, when you're so caught up in all of the doing, it's hard to see the light of like, what do I really need, right? Well, how do I get myself out of this? But knowing that you need some structure, and I love the 5 Ps. It feels so simple, which obviously Simplifying Entrepreneurship, that's a very perfect name for your business.
Thank you.
But Pete, how, so for me at Crystal Media, we're celebrating 10 years in business in September.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I definitely went from like working in the business and working a ton of hours to creating my system and my team to not working as much and having a lot of free time. And honestly, I got really bored with that. Like I can't have too much free time. I need stuff to do.
Yeah.
But I'm right now where I am as we're filming this, I'm a lot more in the business and like in the day-to-day, and I'm building sales pages, and I'm like in the day-to-day, and I know other people could be doing this stuff, but it's just where I'm at right now and need the things I need to do. But tell us, like, how can people work more on, you always hear that, work on the business versus in the business? Any tips to help people get there?
Yeah, sure. Let's roll it back to your situation just a little bit, because you said you wanted to dig back in.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad thing.
Right.
I mean, we got into business because we love what we do. I mean, I still love selling shoes. I don't want to be on the floor every day, all day, and be dependent upon being on the schedule. In fact, I'm not on the schedule at all. I fill in if in dire needs. But from that perspective, I like to do it. I like the interaction. I like all those different things.
Yeah.
So I've got this tool that I use with my clients. It's called Love It or Leave It. And, it's an exercise. So many of the things that I do with Simplifying Entrepreneurship are tools. They're thinking exercises to get your stuff out of your crazy mind.
Yeah.
Because most of us entrepreneurs are crazy minders.
Totally.
So it's like out of the crazy mind and all the jibble jabble and all that stuff and onto paper, so that we can sort of. One of my coaches, Ari Meisel, calls it the external brain. How are you getting it out of your brain and into something else, whether it's on your tablet or onto paper or whatever the case, doesn't really matter. But the idea is it gets onto out of your brain and onto something so that you can actually make sense of it and take action upon it. And when you look at that sort of stuff, we rewind that. Well, what you just said are areas, and I'm assuming this because I don't know, but areas that you truly love to do. Because I can't imagine that when you were completely out of doing that sort of stuff, that you would dive into the areas that you truly hate doing.
Right. That is true. And it's funny because I was feeling a lot of fulfillment out of building a sales page. I was just like, I'm loving it. It was like a creative outlet for me. I'm trying to find the right image, and we're doing our first in-person event called Evolve in April in 2023. And I'm like, I'm able to see the vision of it all and write the copy for it. And I'm just like loving it. So yeah, you're absolutely right. I didn't dive into the stuff that I hate. And I started this business for a reason, and there are things that I love, and it's been really nice. I do think I got caught up. I think other entrepreneurs do this too, in coaching that talks about the freedom and have free days and delegate and be the business owner, not the
manager.
Yeah. And those I totally agree with. And I think that's great. But what I learned is I got so caught up in that and so good at it that I did create so much free time and separated myself a lot from the business that I felt so disconnected, and actually it created some depression for me. I felt lost and stuck. And it wasn't until I got really clear on what I wanted and my why, and then kind of got back into the business, and I was like, this is what I was missing is working. So I think you got to really figure out, but you talk about this, what's the purpose? What's the passion? We want to make sure we start there.
Yeah. And I couldn't agree more. So this is, I talk about all that stuff. I talk about elevate and delegate, and I talk about all of that sort of stuff. And I believe it needs to happen. Yeah. But can you overdo it? Well, you can overdo it if you actually take away the stuff you love.
Right.
So understanding, and that's why I like this exercise, love it or leave it, really. Yep. It's an exercise of listing everything that you do in a day, in a week, whatever the case is, and then really sort of jotting down the stuff that truly, we're having this conversation because we both like to talk and have podcasts and talk business. This gives me energy. This is something I love to do.
Yep.
So why would I not want to do more of that? Why would I take that away and give that to somebody else?
Right.
That's not the stuff I want to elevate and delegate. That's the stuff I want to do and own and live in my love it zone, because I like to work. I like to have these conversations. I like to do the stuff that I like to do. I just don't want to do these other things.
Right.
And so that's the process side of things. So, I mean, let's take it back a little bit to the promise, right? Because everything starts with the promise. And what I've found with my clients recently, and just some other businesses that I've talked to over the last couple of years, they've lost their promise. It's changed, but yet they haven't changed it. So, the people are actually looking for a different promise than they are still providing from a couple of years ago. So what does that do? Well, now they're frustrated in the fact that we're not doing as well and things are different and all this kind of stuff. It's like, okay, well, you actually have to change.
Right.
Right. So we take this step back and we work on our business, and we sit down with the pad and paper. And we start working through this stuff and understanding the promise, because that's where it all starts. And the promise kind of goes like this. What's your client's main problem? What are the 3 things, or more, but 3 things that you do uniquely that can transform them from having that problem to a better life? And when you do that, when you can put that in words that and phrases that you can market to and all this other stuff, it's like, okay, what's the transformation? And you can have several different transformations that you're taking your clients through depending on your offerings. But think of the main one. And where are they now? Where do they want to be? And what is your process in the middle to take them through that? And this is the idea. So many of the people haven't gone back and rejigged their promise, that they're promising stuff that nobody wants anymore.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's an excellent point. And I think, the word evolve, that's our conference, but I'm really using it a lot because in my industry with crystal media and social media, it's constantly changing. So you do have to kind of recheck back in, is the promise the same? Do our people still need the same thing? How are we evolving? And then readjust and really make sure that you're spending that time that goes back to working on the business versus because you take that time to think about it and really get clear, and then get your team and everybody that needs to be involved on the same page. So Now, you mentioned you like talking and podcasting, like I am here. Now, would that be considered your zone of genius? We talk a lot about zone of genius here on Crystal Uncorked. What is yours, the thing that you love doing that you're also really good at?
Yeah, so that's, zone of genius. There's all sorts of different ways. I call it loved zone. Yes, it is
Okay.
my loved zone. And it's something I thoroughly enjoy talking to entrepreneurs about business, about their problems, about coming up with new ways and ideating around that sort of stuff. I'm not sure, Crystal, whether you're familiar with Colby. Colby is one of
Yeah.
the scores that I like to really use, and I'm a 9 on quick start, which means I'm a high ideator. And so it's like people come to me and they're like, "What do you think about this? What do you think about that?" And like pop off these different ideas, and it's like I don't want to actually do them for you because
Right.
that's not me.
Right.
But if you're looking for ideas, boy, let's come out with them, and then let's delegate them to somebody who loves doing that kind of stuff, so that we can actually make it better, right?
Right. I love it. What is the best business advice that you've gotten, and who was it by?
I've gotten so many business, so many, and I have an issue, personal issue with people that are coaches that have never been coached.
Oh, jeez. Right. Oh, that's a
There's a
good
ton.
point.
There's a
Yeah.
ton. I mean, I
Yeah.
spend a lot of money on coaching, and I always
Yep.
have.
Same.
Mastermind groups and different, all sorts of different things. I'm always trying to better myself and different things. So just a ton. But when we look at one of the biggest frustrations that I see every day, which is time frustration, one of the clips that I like is from Dean Jackson, and Dean Jackson, great marketer, and he says there's only 24 hours in a day. You can't buy more and you can't use less. So if you think of that, there's only 24 hours in a day. You can't buy more and you can't use less. Well, how am I using my time? And the only way I could buy more is if I buy somebody else's time. I can't buy more for me. It's finite. It's one of the only things in life that's finite, truly finite.
Right.
And, how are you using that time? And we talk about working on the business and the business. Are you actually allocating and time scheduling time to work on your business? Are you giving yourself strategy time? Are you giving yourself floor time to work in your business? Is all of your time floor time? Is any of your time, on it? All of these different things, when you think about all the time parameters, that really changes your thinking because there's only so many years in your life. And all of this other stuff, it carries on, right? It's like, what's your future look like? So I usually start off with most of my clients in saying, what is your future? What's your 25-year future? What's your 50-year future? What do you want out of your life so that we can back end your business to deliver it to you?
Beautiful. I love it. Pete, I'm sure that goes along with the, like, how people prepare to create a self-managing business, but do you have other tips to help people prepare for doing that?
Yeah. The podcast is only half an hour long.
Right. I know.
There's a ton.
The big question.
Yeah. So here's another one that I often cite, another great acronym for the word system, which is process in my side. But Joel Weldon, who's one of my coaches, awesome speaker. Look him up. He's helped me along the way for public speaking, one of the founders of the National Speaking Association and all sorts of stuff. Super, super cool guy. And he's 80 years old. And on his 80th birthday, he did over 2 hours of water skiing in a row on his 80th birthday.
Wow.
Super interesting dude. Anyway, Joel introduced me to this acronym for the word system. And a system is something that saves you stress, time, energy, and money. So what does a system do? It saves you stress, time, energy, and money. So whether it's a system or a process, think of that. Think of all the processes in your business. Your hiring, your firing, your training, your accounts receivable, your accounts payable, your marketing, your sales processes, your all of it. How do you clean the store? All of these different things. There's all these processes, and if all the processes are in the owner's head, it's no wonder you're being overwhelmed and frustrated, because anytime anybody has any question, they're going to come to you and ask it.
Right. Exactly.
So the biggest thing is, once you lay out and people say, there's way too many processes, I'll never get them all down. Well, start
Exactly.
because we always procrastinate these things that are huge. So take it down from, the 20-foot step ladder down to the rung. And how can you do that first rung? Because a year from now, you'll have 7 more rungs done. And 4 years from now, you'll have it done. And you'll
Yeah.
enjoy the freedoms because the processes are there. And here's the nice part. You've delegated them to people and assigned accountability, not just assigned accountability, yada, yada, yada. I've given accountability to somebody, but they still come to you for everything. Well, that's
Right.
not accountability. Accountability is when somebody can actually make the decision without your involvement and it gets done properly. That's
Right.
accountability. And until you're at that sort of stage, you're never going to enjoy a lot of freedom. So why don't you start with setting that first thing up and assigning the accountability and letting them own it? Your team wants to own stuff. They want to be accountable. They want to live the promise. That's why they're with you. Because when you set up the promise in a way, it either attracts or repel the 3 types of people that you have. And the 3 types of people are your ideal customer. And I know you've talked a lot about that in your side of things.
Yep.
Your ideal teammates and your ideal outsourced suppliers.
Nice.
Everybody else that helps you deliver your promise to your clients. So they need to understand what your promise is so that they can deliver to you what you need to deliver to your clients. And that will either attract the right people and the right outsource and the right team and the right clients, or it'll repel them. And both are good.
Absolutely. Both are good. So much gold, Pete. And it so goes back to getting started. Like one little step, you do have to get started and do it today. Don't wait, because this does take time to really get to a place where you feel great. It does take time. So much gold. Pete, what is a secret weapon, tool, or app that you're willing to share with our audience that you're loving?
It's so interesting because I'm starting to do some carousels on Instagram, Crystal, which is something I've never really done a whole lot of. And I am not the social media expert. I mean, I can create content and I do a lot of stuff, but you're the social media expert, not me. But I am doing some carousels. And the carousel I'm working on today was about tools, automation tools and different things and all this sort of stuff. And, my number one tool that I've loved over the last couple of years since all of this craziness is Loom. I absolutely love Loom. And Loom, for those of you that don't know, it's not Zoom, it's Loom. I love Zoom too, by the way. But I love Loom because I like to talk. I don't like to type a one-page email. I don't want to spend the time doing that. I don't, emails. There's so many different automation tools and filters and all sorts of stuff we could talk about some on another podcast. But, Loom itself is such a powerful tool. I send so many Looms every day, which is really, and I just clip them into my email. So now they get what I'm talking about. They get my tone, which is super important because it's a video, right? It's a link in the email that basically they can see what I'm saying. I can share my screen. I can go through stuff and I can say, hey, you see this? Can we change that from red to yellow? You see this? Can we move this around? I can use that and send them it. So why would I want to spend an hour writing this long email with all this detail that they probably don't understand? They're like, and they also are saying, is he mad at me?
Exactly. Right.
Is he mad at me?
Yeah.
So tone is always questionable in emails.
Oh, totally. I was just listening to a story today from Gary Vaynerchuk, who I follow, and he was talking exactly about that. He's like, tone, it does not translate. And so many people are doing video already, video marketing, video, social media content, that for you to be able to say what you want to say and people can hear your voice and hear the tone. Yeah. It's a totally different world that we're in now for communicating. And so there's that aspect. And then also the aspect of like being able to be more clear with what you're looking for. We use a tool called Searchy, which we use it for other stuff, but I also use it similar to what you do, like share the screen and I walk my team through stuff. And it's just so much easier if I can just say it in a video. Totally got to check out Loom though. And the other thing I wanted to say is that I'm glad you're doing carousels because they are the best type of content outside of a reel that you could be doing on Instagram. So keep doing more of them.
It's on my bucket list here, and I'm pushing through.
I love it. Awesome. Pete, this was such a great conversation. It went by so fast and there was so much gold. I love it. I know that there's people listening to this that need to learn more, that need the help, and are probably very inspired by what you're saying and motivated by what you're saying. Will you tell people how to connect with you and learn more?
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Crystal. It's been a pleasure. I always enjoy our chats. And, one of the things you can do, and Crystal was just, as we're recording this at early April, Crystal was my guest on the Simplifying Entrepreneurship last week. So if you want to go and listen to more of us chatting, slide on over to the Simplifying Entrepreneurship podcast. So you can catch a little bit more about me and some more conversation of the last 40 or so episodes over there. And if you type in Simplifying Entrepreneurship, you're going to find me. It's simplifyingentrepreneurship.com. I'm on LinkedIn at Pete Mohr, Mohr, Instagram, Pete Mohr _coach. And those are the best ways to catch me, really, Crystal. The one thing I'd like to just highlight here too is that I've got a great business assessment on my site right now at simplifyingentrepreneurship.com. And, when you go there, obviously your hotspot, the top right-hand corner, take the assessment, and it's throughout a few other areas in the website too. But that assessment, here's what it does. In about 10 minutes, about 50 multiple choice questions, I love scorecarding stuff. So it kind of green lights and red lights the areas within your life and your business, because life and business is often tied together for us entrepreneurs, right?
Right.
And so are you organized? Are you managing your time? How's your team? How's your marketing? All this sort of stuff. And it green lights and red lights these sort of things in about depending on how you answer it, in about a 50 to 60 page PDF that you get back. And what that does then is it really allows you, again, we talked about tools, it gives you a tool to understand, pat yourself on the back for the stuff you really got under control, because it'll give you that. And also gives you some of these areas of red lights, and it's like, maybe I do need to work on that. And those are the things, whether you need to call Crystal and get help on some marketing, or me with some strategy and operations and some of the stuff we talked about today, or somebody else that can help get you through, because everything we do when we're spending money, we're spending our time, it's all about a transition to a better life, right? And that's what we need to understand for our clients too, is that whatever we're doing for them, we're taking them, like we started off with that promise, from their problem and what they're suffering through to a better life. And when we do that, we've succeeded.
Okay, so the second we hang up, I know what I'm going to go do. I'm going to take the assessment. I love that you mentioned that. We'll link to that too. What a great resource for people, Pete. And again, just thank you so much for your time, for sharing, for opening up. One last cheers here. This is so fun to have this conversation. And we'll link to our episode as well. Definitely check out Pete. I feel like you're just killing it with your podcast. I stalk you. I listen. I'm seeing what's going on. You've got so many reviews. People are loving it. Like, awesome job on what you're doing and how you're helping these entrepreneurs. We need help. So I'm so glad that you're there for us. And thanks for being here.
Sweet. It's been a pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
Awesome. All right, everybody. I will see you on the next See You. Bye-bye. All right, let's keep this conversation going. Join me on Instagram. I'm at Crystal Uncorked. And I need to tell you, thank you so much for listening to this show. It truly means the world to me. If you're enjoying Crystal Uncorked, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Okay, I'll see you on the next See You. Cheers, friend.